There are people throughout the world that have interesting stories to tell. Stories of heroism, acts of kindness, near-death experiences, successes, and failures. You usually hear of these stories from people that live in another state or country. But what about the stories from within your own community? Everyone has a story to tell. And by everyone, we mean your neighbor, your coworker, the person behind you at church, people you interact with on a daily basis, or maybe even you. Welcome to the DTB podcast presented by Bless Your Heart Nonprofit Corporation. I'm Jeray Jambon Jarreau, Director of Bless Your Heart Nonprofit, and filling in for our regular host, Brennan Matherne, as we speak to some of the most interesting people up and down Bayou Lafourche. It is no secret that there is a mental health crisis in our country, state, and local community. Decreases in state and federal budgets have severely slashed funding associated with mental health services. As discussed during episode 6 with Bart and Amanda Matisse, suicide is a leading cause of death across the nation. Also, as discussed with Michael and Brittany Cheramie, undiagnosed or untreated mental health conditions are often the cause of substance abuse issues. We often feel taboo about saying words like depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, panic disorder, PTSD, postpartum depression, eating disorders, and OCD. But the DTB podcast has a goal to end the stigma associated with mental health issues, raise awareness, and let others know that you are not alone. I personally have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder in 2016 and believe it's important not to attribute shame to those suffering with mental health conditions. Today we're sitting down with Michelle and Josh Cheramie of the Larose Cutoff area. Michelle and Josh have had personal experience with mental health conditions and are often advocates in our community about ending the stigma associated with mental health conditions. So at the beginning of every interview, what we do is we ask you to introduce yourself, who you are, who are your parents, where did you grow up?
My name's Michelle Cheramie. My parents are Scott and Suzanne Cheramie, and I was raised in Larose, Louisiana.
And I am Josh Cheramie. I am 40 years old as of a few weeks ago. My parents are Annette and Farrell Cheramie. Lived in Larose, Louisiana my whole life until I got married in 2002 to this beautiful woman right here, and I've been living in Cutoff ever since.
Wonderful. And so y'all have 2 girls?
Yes.
What are their names?
Allie and Grace.
How old are they?
10 and 14.
I bet raising a 10 and 14-year-old girl is an interesting experience.
Absolutely.
So, Michelle, you and I kind of grew up together. We grew up in the same neighborhood, but you've been such an advocate as of recent with mental health issues and really trying to end that stigma associated with mental health conditions. I want you to tell us your story. Start from the beginning. Tell us, what was your diagnosis? What was that onset? And how that's really changed who you are and what your mission is.
Okay. So I was diagnosed with panic disorder in 2019, December 2019. And it started out, I went to the hospital because I was tested positive for the flu. Okay, and they put prednisone in my IV because I had a hard time breathing. So the next day, they're not 100%, but they think that the prednisone caused some anxiety. The next day when I woke up, I had a full-blown panic attack. I've never had a panic attack before in my whole entire life. I knew what it was because my mom always struggled with anxiety and panic attacks, so I knew what I was feeling, what it was, because my mom had struggled with that. But I never personally experienced it. It really felt like I was losing control, okay? And so that happened, and then immediately I got scared that I was going to continue to have the panic attacks and that it was going to come over and over. And so for a few days, I was just really, really scared that the panic attack was going to keep coming And in that time, I had found out that a pastor of a different state, I don't know who he is, had committed suicide. And I don't really know why, but I was just blown away that a pastor did that. And I couldn't understand that he got so sick, with a mental illness. And, being a pastor and being a Christian. And I knew that's kind of where I was at. I did ministry in my church. I still do ministry in my church. And I'm a Christian, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm having these panic attacks. And what if I turn into that? What if that happens to me? Which I now know is called an intrusive thought. So an intrusive thought is a thought if, let's just say, a normal person that doesn't have panic disorder would be driving down the road, and you would think to yourself, I wonder what would happen if I just drove in the other lane and hit that car. And it's just a thought, and then you're like, God, wow, why did I have that thought? But a lot of people have it.
Right.
But someone with panic disorder is completely different. So someone without panic disorder can have that thought, and then it can just immediately, like, they can say, oh, I had that thought, and then they can never think about it again.
Right.
But someone with panic disorder harps on the thought. Okay? So when I knew that the pastor committed suicide, and I thought, what if I did that? That's how I spiraled out of control. So I started thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to commit suicide. I didn't want to. I didn't want to die, but I could not get that thought out of my head. And when I tell you, it wasn't just once a day.
Right.
It was every 10 seconds the thought would come. And it got so bad that I had a plan. I had a plan of how it was going to happen. I had a plan of I would imagine myself going in my kitchen, taking a knife, and stabbing myself over and over and over again.
So I just want to be clear. This is not something you wanted to do.
This is not something I wanted to do.
You were afraid that this would happen.
I was afraid that I was going to not have control over my body, and that I was going to do that. Okay?
Right.
And I was so scared because I did end up going to a hospital, and my psychiatrist told me what I was experiencing. He told me about the intrusive thoughts. And most of the time when you have panic disorder, an intrusive thought is something that you would never want to do.
Right.
You understand? So you can have an intrusive thought if someone has panic disorder and they think about molesting a child. Okay? And they can obsess over that and think, oh my gosh, I'm this horrible person. Why am I thinking this?
Right.
I would never want to do this to a child.
Right.
And they're not understanding or comprehending why is this staying in my mind. Okay? And a lot of people have this that don't share and talk about it because there's shame attached to it. Okay? And because I was a believer of Jesus Christ, and the thought of me committing suicide, and I've always heard like, if you commit suicide, you're going to go to hell. Right. And I had that always growing up in my mind that was what was going to happen. Right. And so that was like a fear I had, like, if I do that, that's what's going to happen. And then I just got so scared that for 3 weeks straight, I couldn't hardly get out of bed. I would have panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. Now, in this time, I didn't know what was happening to me. You understand what I'm saying? Like, in this time, I didn't know any of this information. Right. I didn't know what an intrusive thought was. Right. I didn't know. I literally thought I was crazy. I literally thought that I didn't know what I thought, to be honest. I thought in my mind that I was telling myself I needed to kill myself. That's what I needed to do. I needed to end my life, and that was going to be the end result. But I was so scared of it because I really didn't want to. Right. But the thought would not leave.
And so, Josh, what was that like, Michelle said that she never really struggled with mental health issues prior to this event. What was it like seeing your wife in this condition?
Right. So when she was brought to the hospital, we brought her for the flu, and got rehydrated and had the medicine in the IV. Came home, everything was fine until later on. I noticed, she's struggling. Something's going on. 3 days later, this was around Christmas time. Christmas was coming up, and it wasn't supposed to happen like this.
Right.
And so the kids were starting to see what's wrong with mom, and it's just started to escalate, and it was getting worse every day. She was not sleeping. She was trying to battle these thoughts that were going on in her head, and I had to make a decision. We made a decision to bring her to the hospital, to the ER, and get her evaluated. It was very tough to do, but I knew it had to be done because I didn't know where else to go, because I just couldn't continue. This was, our anniversary was coming up. It was all around the same time. New Year's, like, what's going to happen later? So I said, well, we can't wait to find out, because she's just it's going to get worse.
Right.
So we brought her to the evaluation and did all that stuff, and it was tough. We ended up bringing her to the ward, got her admitted, and it was so scary for her. I'm gonna be the strong person. I had to.
Right.
I had to be the strong person, because she, I was all she had at the moment, and so I didn't let it show at first, but it was so hard, because my kids had no clue what was going on. They were at grandma's house, and all this was happening. I remember admitting her and going sit in the truck, and I broke, and it was so hard. I was on the phone actually with her sister, trying to figure out how to get clothing to her, because it just happened. We had to go. We didn't really prepare for it. And so, I had to go to Walmart and get her some leggings, because it was freezing in the place, and things like that. And so, and when I was talking to her, I was trying to ask her, hey, what's the size she needs? I couldn't continue talking, because it just started setting in my head.
Yeah. Like,
this is happening. Like, she's gonna be okay, I think, at first. But I didn't know what happened now. Back then it was just all new, and it was scary. And I could just about imagine what she was going through, because she was actually the one dealing with it. And it was just really, really tough. It was probably one of the hardest things to date that I've been through, with that, knowing that there's nothing you can actually physically do right now for her.
So Michelle, tell us, like, what gets you to that point that y'all decide you need to go to the hospital, and then what was that like?
So one morning, we were asleep. Well, I wasn't sleeping. Like, when I tell you, this was like a 3-week thing, and it was panic attack after panic attack after panic attack, because that's how panicked I was, over this. And so I basically was up pretty much all the time, but I was in bed at the time, and the thoughts just kept coming over and over. You're going to do it tonight. You're going to do it tonight. You're going to, this is how you're going to do it. And I got so, just so frustrated that I sat up in my bed, and I said, and I just screamed, stop. And I just yelled at Josh, I can't take this anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't do this anymore. And so he called my mom, and he said, we need to do something. And so my mom and him brought me to Ochsner in Matthews. And I got admitted there.
So tell us, what is that like? Like, what is it like to be in a mental health facility?
So first off, so this is just being real. I thought, what am I doing here?
Right.
I don't belong here. I don't belong in this place. Like, why am I here? Like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to think I'm crazy. Even though I felt crazy in my mind, that was my immediate thought. Everybody's going to, when people find out, they're going to think, why, what happened to her?
Right.
I was extremely scared. I was in a room with a lady that tried to kill someone, and that's who I was rooming with. But she was super nice. She was super sweet. She actually comforted me through that time. one of the nurses, I don't remember his name, but I remember he was bald-headed, and he was so sweet to me. He came check on me literally every 10 minutes. He was coming check, make sure I was okay. You know, they couldn't touch me or anything like that. Like, I tried to even hug one of them because that's, like, I'm a hugger. I'm
right.
like, you know, and they couldn't. But, like, they were very, very, like attentive to me.
Right.
And they really helped me. But there were so many people in that, well, there was 10 of us, but because that was the max you can have at one time. But I met every single person in there, and I was truly, not every single one of them, but I was, a lot of them I was able to witness to and talk to and share with them about Jesus. And I'm Facebook friends with several of them still to this day.
So tell me, what kind of mental health conditions were those people suffering with? Did y'all share about that at all?
Yes, so most of them were in there for substance abuse. There was one that she wasn't, but there was a couple in there for substance abuse that I talked to, that either overdosed or and things like that.
Right. So I want to know, you go to a mental health facility. I mean, I guess the only experience I've ever had with it would be like what you see on TV. Everybody's in white robes and you in a hospital bed. But I don't think that's really what it's like. Like, tell me, like, what are y'all going to, like, counseling sessions? Are you seeing a doctor? Like, what is this like? What is the environment?
So you wake up basically, and they monitor your eating. So basically, you get up and you have to go to breakfast, and you don't have to eat, but they monitor how much you're eating, so that kind of determines your progress within your stay. So you eat breakfast, and then you have, like, group. So there's someone that comes in, and you have, like, group time where you all talk and share. You learn like breathing methods, for anxiety and different things like that. And then you basically have, like, free time to where you can go in your room, or you can go back to the open area where they have TVs and stuff, and you can watch TV, or you can talk to the different people. That's what I did. We all, like, sat at the table, and we kind of just shared our life and everything like that. I asked for a Bible when I was in there, and I did a lot of reading in my room and writing down, like, because when I was in there, when I had my one-on-one sessions with the therapist, the first thing she told me was about journaling and writing things down and getting it out from your mind onto paper. And so I started doing that while I was in there. And so I did a lot of that. And then you had to do lunch again, and then same process till supper. And then you had to be in your room at 10.
Gotcha. So tell us about, like, getting that diagnosis and treatment post hospital stay. Like, what is that like? So
when I was in the hospital, I still at that point didn't know what was happening to me until I saw the actual psychiatrist, and I explained to him what I was going through. And he's the one that told me about the intrusive thoughts, and he's the one that explained that that's what panic disorder is. Okay, so it's someone with panic disorder not being able to just throw that thought away.
Right.
And you keep on harping on the thought, and the fear keeps coming, which someone that doesn't have panic disorder can just throw the thought away.
Right.
And not really think about it again. Whereas someone with panic disorder is going to continue. You basically can spiral out of control.
Right.
And that's what happens until you learn a coping mechanism for it.
So what are some of the coping mechanisms? I mean, obviously you're not a mental health professional, but you can just share with us your own experience. What has been some of the coping mechanisms that have helped you?
Okay, so the number one thing I did when I got out was journal. That was the number one thing that they taught me, was to take it out from my mind and put it onto paper. As far as like like not writing down the thought of wanting to commit suicide, but like writing down like, this is a lie, this is not true, I don't want to commit suicide, and just basically writing down everything you feel and releasing it on paper. You wouldn't think how much of a coping mechanism that would be, but it's actually really helpful, really, really helpful. Also, being able to talk about it and not feeling like you're crazy, you're going crazy. You know that someone else had a similar experience to you, helps when you know you're not alone.
Right.
So being able to do that. And that's one of the reasons why me and my sister started our mental health and your faith for women.
So that's what I want to definitely talk about. So Mental Health and Your Faith is a Facebook group that I got into right after your diagnosis. I may have been one of the first people to join the group. And at that time, I was kind of going through my own, I didn't understand why I was experiencing so much anxiety. I had no thing that I could point to say, I'm being anxious about this, and it worried me. Like I felt crazy. And so this group, I can just tell the listeners, has been instrumental in helping me understand I'm not crazy and I have a medical condition. And like, if I have a broken leg, I need to get a cast. And if I have a medical condition, I need to go see a doctor. So tell us about how Mental Health and Your Faith has started, and how does that help you and your sister in y'all's mental health journey?
Okay. So when I was in the hospital, I felt in me, something will come from this. I knew in the hospital, I didn't know what yet. I didn't know it was going to be a group, but I knew something was going to happen from this, and I was going to be able to share my story and to be an encouragement to others in some kind of way with this. And I had felt that in the hospital immediately. Just from me talking to some other girls that were in there and them sharing what they were going through, I felt like, I need to do something. So I got out the hospital in the end of December. I was actually on me and Josh's anniversary, December 28th, 2019. And about the end of January of 2020 is whenever me and Megan decided to create the Facebook group, Mental Health and Your Faith for Women. And initially it was for mental health because that's what we had talked about. Now it's really just a place of encouragement altogether. I mean, there's women in there that don't even have a mental illness, but still love it because they get the encouragement. And it's a place that they can go to and share, ask for prayers, and share what they're going through to get advice or whatever. So my twin sister struggled with substance abuse starting at the age of 18, and she went to rehab in 2006. So she's been sober since 2006.
Wow.
And most people, whenever they struggle with substance abuse, it's coming from somewhere. It's not just, oh, let me be an addict today.
Right.
They're not just thinking, that sounds fun, let me be an addict.
Right.
It's mostly because they're struggling with a past trauma or a hurt or a mental illness, something they're trying to find a coping mechanism and something that makes them feel good in that moment to forget or whatever it may be. And same thing, that's what happened with Megan. She was having some issues with our biological father that started her drug addiction. And so we had both of those things, her with the addiction and me with the panic disorder, and we decided that we can really be an encouragement and help others through this group.
So what is the goal of Mental Health and Your Faith?
The goal is for people to know that they are not alone. They are not weird. They are not crazy. That this is actually very normal to go through these life events, whether it be addiction, mental health, mental illness, whatever it may be, that this is way more common than anybody realizes.
Right.
And it's just a place that they can go to and share what they're going through, ask for prayers, and not feel like they're being judged. I asked in the group last night, knowing that I was going to come on here today, and the main thing that, like, I asked in the group, what is the one thing that has really helped y'all since the group's been open, that has helped y'all through this time? And majority of the people said knowing that we aren't alone, and every day seeing encouragement and prayers, and just knowing that, because sometimes you go on Facebook and all you see is the negative things, and they go on Facebook and they see something positive and something encouraging, and that's what most of them said, that you wouldn't even realize how much that helps someone.
Right. Absolutely. So, Josh, I'm really excited that we have a man here to come and talk about mental health, because I feel like women, we want to share, we want to talk about things, we want to know, we want to ask questions, but I feel like with men, they have a tougher time. So I feel like this is going to be instrumental. I want you to share your journey with mental health and kind of where you're at now.
So I like what you said, men. I'm a man, okay? And I'll be the first one to tell you that it is hard to talk about that type of thing that you're going through, because as men, we like to bottle. We don't want to talk about our emotions. We think it shows weakness. Right. And that's why it's a lot harder for men to do that, because they would rather not.
Right.
Than be the big tough guy, right? I'm not going to act like the big tough guy, because you're not that tough that you could fight this alone. Right. So I was never diagnosed with any kind of disorder, panic, anxiety, any depression. But I through the years of ministry, over 15 years being a minister, I've learned a lot of things of what the red flags are of depression, and seeing other people go through things and not really understanding it, but I knew what they were. Right. So I knew when things were off with myself. Through the years, being, not many people would agree. Only a very few amount of people would know this, that being in that type of ministry could be very lonely. Right. And so in the place where I was, I knew something was changing. I was losing a passion for some of the things that I once had much passion for. I started not even wanting to go there anymore and just serve, and it was just starting to be so different, and I started to feel depressed, where I just wanted to stay home and not really put the energy like I did. Because if you know anything about me, I'm going to put my heart, soul, and everything into a project or whatever we're doing for week to week, kids ministry service, or like go see what I used to do, and you'll see that there's a lot of time and energy, and it started to slack, like major. And I knew that, and I think other people saw it too. And I was making excuses. I was saying, it's going to get better. I'm just having a hard time, and it didn't. It just started to spiral out of control. It started to affect many other areas of my life. My physical health started to struggle from it. I got into a really dark place. We were having, I was getting more agitated easily. My spiritual walk was struggling. I wasn't praying as much. It was just really getting to a really dark. I knew something had to be done. And so I started seeing a counselor. Actually, my wife and I, we both started seeing a counselor. And then we started doing individual sessions. That alone, making the decision to do it, I didn't have any, I didn't struggle with the act of actually going to a counselor. I did have that stigma of saying, and I still do sometimes. I feel like when I'm pulling up to the place, like, what if someone sees my truck there, Yeah. And that thought of, I'm doing something that it's scary and you don't want people to know about, but I know in my head I got to do this, because if you keep on putting it in, it's going to come out the wrong way. Right. You're going to do something stupid. You're going to say something. You're going to make it worse. You're going to just blow up and absolutely do something you're going to regret that can impact the rest of your life. And so I needed to get it off my chest. I couldn't talk to her about it. I couldn't talk to a lot of other people about it, because it had a lot to do with those people. Right. And so it was kind of scary to spill everything out, but in the other way, it felt great to be able to just release it.
Right.
When I got out of the first session or the second session, third session, it was like, this is healthy. I need this. I didn't even realize how I needed it. And so, again, not being diagnosed with anything, after that, and she may have to help me with the date, but there was a time where we had to make another decision to talk to your doctor because about getting on some sort of medication. I said, it's helping, but there's something going on that's continuing this, right? So I went ahead and made a video conference call with my doctor to try and get on some sort of antidepressant. And she put me on a low dosage of it to introduce it into my body, and we were about ready to go on vacation. And this was about maybe a week, almost maybe less than a week before vacation. And so I took the medication the first day. The following night, I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, tapping my wife, saying, "Michelle, you need to, something's not right." And I literally thought that was it.
Yeah.
It felt like I was about to have a heart attack. I sat up. I was tapping Michelle, "Get your phone, call 911. Something's happening. Do it now." I was literally feeling like my heart was just going to stop beating. It was so scary, and I was like thinking of, this is it. Didn't know what was happening. Thought I was dying. And something happened where she recognized what was going on. And if it weren't for what she went through, she would not have been able to recognize it. As soon as she said, "Josh, I think you're having a panic attack," I immediately felt a little bit better.
Right.
It started to go away. And I didn't feel as, "Oh, I'm dying." It was, okay, still not understanding why, there was no. Then I thought, oh, the medicine. Well, before I took the medicine, I already had thoughts. I do not like, and again, stigma here, medication. I'm going to have some sort of a reaction to it, or there's always that thought. What if I take this? What's going to happen? Well, I'm going to have an arm grow out of my chest or something like
He was very
something
fearful of the
very
medicine.
fearful of taking the medicine in the first place. I had a conversation with a friend that I haven't spoke to in years. That was it maybe a few days before, and he's like, "Man, you need to watch taking that medicine. It can do this to you." Putting it in my head, the thought was already established, so I'm starting this medicine, and I was thinking these things. Oh my goodness, I'm having this major reaction. I'm about ready to die.
Yeah.
And so I think when, after a while, I stopped taking the medicine and started to slowly get better. But all that day, it was like little panic attacks here and there. My face got so picky, and it felt like something sitting on my chest, and then it would go away. Then it would come back, and it would go away. And it was nothing. I've never dealt with this before in my whole life.
Right.
Never had a panic attack. Never had that type of thing ever happen to me. It just instantly started. And I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And so, so that's kind of how it started with me. Like I said, I was never diagnosed, but that was back in May, early May. And so I made an appointment to see the same psychiatrist, but they're so booked that I had to wait all the way until the end of July, which is July 27th. This is now. I don't know when this is going to post, but that's July 27th is not yet here. And so I still haven't had my actual appointment with the psychiatrist. And so that's coming.
Right.
So will I be, diagnosed general anxiety or whatnot? I'm not sure, but we'll figure that out. But I knew something was happening, and I can explain to you maybe possible reasons why the stress was so great,
right,
that there could be reasons that I'm feeling it, and I know that there is a lot, and I don't need to say all that here, but there was a ton of things when I don't know if you realize I resigned. I'm no longer a pastor. I resigned on the about 5 weeks ago. Was it 3 to 5? Around 5 weeks ago. She's better at remembering stuff. About 3 weeks ago, moving out of that transition, I didn't realize that it needed to be done.
Yeah.
And so just that weight knowing that just having that removed, that responsibility in the mind and all that stuff and everything that came with that, it almost ceased to exist. Every now and then I will, and the trigger happens where it happened, in my bed, the place where I need to rest,
Right.
the place where it should be the easiest place to just go and relax. It's right now, it's not as relaxing as I would like it, because even last night we were watching a movie and I can feel it. I could feel just this heavy little thumps and this, like, my arms get kind of picky, and then it would just go away.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to have a bad night. I'm not going to be able to sleep. I'm trying to redirect those thoughts into something else, like this is fake. This
Right.
is not, this is a lie. And I know this because, of course, my faith, but also what she has been through.
Right.
Establishing the thoughts, like, no, you're going to be okay. Right. And so if it weren't for her, I've been a rock for her in that moment when she was going through it, and she doesn't realize that she's helping me through that now.
Absolutely.
Knowing the knowledge of it. And again, we'll probably talk about that, how much that helps to know the information about
Right.
what's happening before it happens.
So tell me what, I know that you've not yet had that psychiatric appointment yet, but we talked a little bit before we started. Tell me how creating an online community has really helped you in your mental health journey.
Right. So as a kid, I'm a 90s kid, 80s, 90s kid. I was heavily into games. I was a gamer. That was my thing. It was my hobby. I loved doing it. And so always been a gamer. That was just one of my things I loved to do. So through this, back in March, even before most of this happened, I had an idea to start streaming video games. Just, I've been wanting to do it for a long time. Well, I started watching this guy, and I'm going to mention him. I doubt he'll hear this podcast, but he's from Missouri, and his name is Texas Toast. That's his gaming name. And I was watching him play Minecraft, okay? And he inspired me so much because of his positivity, and he was just, the things he was saying, he would say, you matter, you're loved, you're not alone, and things like that. And it inspired me so much to actually make the decision to start actually streaming and doing it. So I got all the gear together, and I started putting a plan. I made a Facebook, got the branding, all that, like made it legit, like it was real. So I created this platform really with no intentions of, I don't want to be popular,
Right,
or I wasn't doing it for any of that. I wanted to do it, number one, have fun, because it was fun.
Yeah.
And number two, because a lot of people love that, and kind of plugging it into that positivity and creating a place for people to come where it's not just full of garbage.
Right.
And when I say garbage, there are so many people who do that type of thing that is not good.
Right.
Okay, and so having that place that's family friendly, that anyone can come in and be encouraged. I never do a stream without encouraging at the end, and then even in the middle. I have some moderators and some other admins that help, and they comment. And so as we're doing this, it started out by just playing, and then I'm thinking, okay, this is a big deal. This could be a big deal. And really incorporating that type of thing and being a place for some of the forgotten people. Because we talked about addiction, people can, and going to something to fill a void. Gaming is one of them. Video games are a thing that people will go to get out of where they're at mentally. And so I know a lot of people do that, and they need a place because they may feel alone.
So for our listeners, I want you to say, what is the name of your gaming platform, and what type of games do you play?
So again, I could probably talk all day on this, but I could probably explain how we got the name, but the name of it is Super Pancakes Gaming. And very brief story, it just didn't start out by just saying, hey, what's a funny name? Let's just name it this. There's a story to it that kind of resulted in some of my guys who helped me in a camp out where we cooked pancakes one morning and burnt some. And so it was just whole big deal about the burnt pancake. And then we ended up changing because burnt pancakes didn't sound that good.
Right.
And so we kind of talked about super pancakes. And we're like, man, that sounds really great. It rolls off the tongue. It's different. Every time people see the name, they're like, I love that name. And so I knew it was right. So Super Pancakes Gaming is the place. It's on Facebook. It's a Facebook gaming community. I only have about 240 to 50 followers so far. Started it in April. But that is now, and there's a group also, and I want to mention this, out of that has created a avenue for me to just release.
Right.
Because I'm able to talk about the issues that I'm dealing with and be open with it, and knowing that there are other people that know what I'm talking about. They feel it,
Right.
And we have conversations while playing video games about, hey, you could reach out to people. You can, and have comments. I have a bot that posts links and says stuff like, you matter, you're loved, and click this link to join our community or for more information. Mental health matters, kind of things, like kind of raise awareness about mental health, because like we said, it's not talked about.
Right.
And it might not seem like a gaming platform on Facebook would be the best place, but for some it is.
Right.
They may accidentally stumble across that, which many have. I had a guy comment in one of our streams not long ago, man, this is an encouraging stream. And he has been coming back to every stream since, and he has followed, and he has liked, and so that one person, it's all worth it.
Right.
If I could do that for a few people. I don't want thousands of people who don't,
Right.
That's not what it's about. For me, it's about creating a place for those people to be heard.
Right.
Because medication, all that stuff is great, but you need people. And I'm not going to be everything to everyone, but I could be something to someone.
Right.
Right. And if I can just, you don't need to have a leadership title to be a leader, but you could give an ear. Anyone can do that, can listen. And so creating that space for that person. There's also a Discord. Many gamers will probably understand what that is. We have a Discord community. There's an individual channel just for mental health where people can go vent their things. Of course, if anything were to rise up where we feel like they're harming themselves, we would. I even put it in there. Look, you could put what you want in here, but if we feel like your life is at stake or anyone else, we will have to take matters. But there's a place for it.
Yeah.
There are people who, I'm a part of another one also. The guy I mentioned, the one who inspired me, he has one also. And lots of people will go in there and just say they're having a bad day, and we'll comment and say, it's okay, we're there for you. If you need a private messages, like just having that there for some people.
Do you find it's primarily men who are on these?
Okay, so yes, mostly. And you would think that kids would be my main, but it's not. It's a lot of adults.
Right.
And most of them are around my age group.
Wow.
And so you would think, a video game is for kids. Not necessarily. The nostalgia of what we do, because I play a lot of retro games. And so that category of people or that age group will cling to that type of game because they remember it. It's a nostalgic thing, and so there's a connection.
Right.
And then relationships are formed, and then they realize this is a normal person who struggles with the same thing I'm struggling with. I like this, and it's positive.
Right.
It's not teasing the person for struggling with this. It's, hey, you're going to be okay. You're alone. I never end a stream without saying they are not alone.
That's awesome. I feel like now, in a time where our kids and we are so connected to our devices and social media, and the internet can be such a scary place, and with so much negativity and no recourse for things that people just say out there, that it's so important that people like the two of you provide a network or a community for people to be positive and uplifting and understand that they're not struggling with these issues by themselves. There's one more aspect I really want to touch on. Josh, I understand that you've stepped away from your role in ministry, but I've known the two of you to always identify as Christians. Part of my own mental health struggle was that, I would hear often, you don't have strong enough faith if you're struggling with anxiety. If you feel like you're having a panic attack, you're letting the devil creep into your mind. So I felt shame associated with talking about my mental health problems because I felt like I wasn't praying hard enough or I wasn't seeking God's will hard enough. So talk to us about that. What are you doing? What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, so I personally believe that God always has a purpose for your pain. And we don't go through pain in our life without a purpose. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that no matter if you're a follower of Jesus or not, you're going to have pain and you're going to walk through something in your life. And so for me as a follower of Jesus, yes, reading my Bible, yes, praying, yes, listening to worship music, yes, we need to do all of those things. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to struggle in life. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that we are not going to have anxiety or struggle with depression, even though we do those things. I believe that we walk through things in life so that we are here on this earth as a vessel. Mm-hmm. We are God's vessels, and He uses us, and He uses our pain, whether it be anxiety, panic disorder, depression. And when people see that we've walked through something and we get past it and through it, they say, if she can do it, I know I can be at that place. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I feel like.
So I'm just going to be straight up honest. Yeah. That sort of thing really frustrates me when I hear people say that, because the ones who are saying it probably don't really understand. Right. And they say, oh, you just need to read your Bible more. I'm like, no, that won't help. You don't know what I'm going through right now. You just need to pray more, which is true. Mm-hmm. That's all great things. It's not, negating any of the information. It's not saying it won't help you and benefit you. But that's not what that person needs right now. And for you to say that, you're over-spiritualizing something that, just leave. That's not what they need right now, And I think that anyone needs to know that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel the way you're feeling. It's okay to have these thoughts, or it's not okay, but it's normal. It's just not okay to continue. Right. You need to reach out. Men, you need to ask for help. You need to talk to somebody. Swallow the ego, swallow the pride, and do it, because you don't realize what it's doing to you until it's too late. Don't let it be too late. Talk to somebody.
Prior to talking on air, you said something that I thought was just noteworthy, and I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to get that written in my office. But you said it is okay not to be okay, but it is not okay to stay that way.
Correct.
And I feel like that's just such an instrumental thing. Mm-hmm. People need to understand it's okay not to be okay, but we need to move forward.
Right.
Josh and Michelle, I really just can't even thank y'all enough. I feel like the message that y'all have conveyed today is going to change lives. Absolutely. I want to provide our listeners a couple of resources. If you feel like you are experiencing mental health issues, or you have a family member who's experiencing mental health issues, there is a place in Houma, Louisiana called Start Corp. The phone number is 985-266-1028. They can provide a wide variety of mental health services and psychiatric care. There is another place in Raceland, Louisiana called Lafourche Behavioral Health. The phone number is 985-537-6823. Michelle has informed me that you really should probably get a referral from your family physician before calling Lafourche Behavioral Health. I can tell you that personally, I see Dr. Lauren Petrie with Lady of the Sea Medical Clinic in Cutoff, and she's really been instrumental and very supportive of the way I'm feeling, and very encouraging, and doesn't make me feel shameful. There are two other counselors that in my law practice I have experience with and I really, really like. Miss Angie Pellegrin out of Thibodeau and Lockport, and Misha Repstock with Lady of the Sea Medical Clinic in La Rose. Both are excellent for counseling with children, girls specifically. So I would just encourage all of our listeners, if you have any, if you need help, you need to seek help.
I love all the resources, but I want to add this. There's something that everybody can do to help.
Right.
And we talked about stigma. Removing that would be the best thing we can do in society right now about mental health. And there's something that everybody can do, because a stigma on mental health is based off of some sort of a stereotype.
Right.
When you see someone struggling with anxiety, you might see them as a coward or with depression, they're lazy, and you label them because of one thing. And then you look at everybody who struggles with that based off of that one thing that you see. You don't understand really what's going on. You just see the outside actions of it. If we can stop thinking that and start looking at mental health as an actual, real thing, an ailment, this is massive, and it needs to be in the forefront of everything. And so if we can stop being so scared and just remove all of those negative things, then I think learning about what it really is, getting awareness, actually understanding what this type of thing is, will absolutely change. Because this goes back since before, they just threw people in jail and chained them to the walls if they were deemed crazy, right? And that's from, now it almost seems that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And we don't really take care of it because they're just that's it, dispose them, right? And no, that's not true, because they're humans and they deserve to be treated exactly the same like any other person with the same living conditions. They shouldn't have any less treatment because they're having a mental issue. And I think if we could just stop looking at it that way, that's a great way to start. And that everyone can do it, not just go to see your doctor.
Right.
That's all great, do that, but even the ones not struggling with it, quit making it harder for the ones struggling with it to actually do it, because they're scared.
Right.
And they don't want to because they're afraid of what you're going to say to them. Don't look at it that way. Look at it as a real thing.
Be supportive.
Yes, be very supportive.
Thank you so much for that, Josh. Mm-hmm. So guys, on a little bit of a lighter note, at the end of every episode, we have a round of rapid fire questions related to life on the bayou. You can give us one-word answers or expand on your answer if you feel the need to explain. It's up to you. So are y'all guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. What is your go-to order at a down the bayou restaurant?
Subway.
Not very down the bayou, Michelle. Josh, what's your go-to order at a down the bayou restaurant?
Okay, so boiled shrimp will be my go-to if it's available.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, potato salad in the gumbo or on the side?
Definitely on the side.
Okay, I'm going to break this down a little bit. All right, this one might be unique, okay? I will put it on the side, but I will scoop it, dip it, and eat it.
Amen. You leave the option there.
Exactly.
That's what I appreciate. So, jambalaya, red or brown?
Brown, for sure.
I'm going to go brown.
Okay. What is your favorite Cajun French word or phrase and its meaning?
I don't know many Cajun words, but the one I do use a lot is chat.
And what does it mean?
I just use it like as, oh, poor thing, or, oh, that's cute.
Right.
Moi, je connais pas français.
And what does that mean?
I don't know French.
Although you know enough to say
I
that.
know some words, and I guess I don't know if I want to say it online, but as a kid, we would have French words that we would say, and croissant was one of them. Chien, cochon, just random words, and we would put these phrases together. I'm not going to say it, but there's different combinations of random words, and so I'll stick with moi je connais pas français because I don't use it right.
Seems like we always or taught the bad French words.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what is your favorite Snowball flavor?
Coconut.
Same.
When a boat is passing and you are in the core and Is the bridge open or closed?
Open.
Can I elaborate a little bit on this one?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, so when you pull up to a business and you go through a front door and the door says closed, you cannot go in.
Right.
Correct? What does a bridge do? You go to the bridge for what? To do something.
To pass.
Think of the bridge like a business, right? If you cannot go on it, it is closed.
We're going to have to agree to disagree because I'm definitely an open person.
Well, when you're closed, I'm going to walk right in. And you're open. And
So, guys, that'll do it for this episode of the DTB podcast. Thanks to our guests, Michelle and Josh Cheramie. We sincerely appreciate y'all's time today. You can subscribe to the DTB podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at the DTB podcast. You can also follow Bless Your Heart Nonprofit on Facebook or Twitter at BYH Nonprofit. You can donate to Bless Your Heart on Venmo at Bless Your Heart Nonprofit and on PayPal at blessyourheartnonprofit@gmail.com. That'll wrap it up for this episode of the DTB podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for our next episode. Until then, this is Jeray Jambon Jarreau. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.